From New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time, presented by AT&T 5G. I am Andrew Weeby with my partners in soccer. It's a Thursday, a playoff Thursday. Chuck D, Charlie, Davies, David Goss as well. One of my favorite people in the world, David. We'll address that here in a second.
Are we sure?
There might be beef.
There's been beef. There's beef.
I just want to say that I feel really fortunate that Charlie was able to pull himself away from Quincy Market. He went shopping clearly on Boylston Street. If you're watching watching on YouTube, he got a really cool Boston sweatshirt.
In case somebody forgot.
I heart Boston.
What he reps.
Yeah, obviously. Not any brand, not any specific organization, just, that classic generic city sweatshirt that we all love.
It's a Boston Marathon sweatshirt.
Is it? Where am I supposed to be seeing that?
It's below. It's down.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
So I couldn't read the Latin on that one.
Hey, look, it's a wonderful day. The Audi 2022 MLS Cup playoffs are here, almost here. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday is your first round. Univision, Unimas, MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app on Saturday. Games start at noon Eastern time. Early in the day, you've got New York Red Bulls, FC Cincinnati getting us started.
Mimosas at RBA, baby.
For me, personally, as a player,
Charlie's about to
nothing worse than a noon game. There is nothing worse.
Is 1 p.m.
There's nothing worse than waking up and
so positive.
Here's your pregame meal for breakfast. That's obviously that's a luxury when we're talking about playoffs and stuff. But come on. Give me a night game.
Wait, Charlie, 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Is that fine? Like, does that hour matter?
No.
Okay, so you want night games no
it's
matter.
Under the lights only for
let
Charlie.
Let it build up. You have some time.
Tight.
You can take your pregame walks. You can have some meals. Listen to music.
Trying to build hype in the first 5 minutes of the show. Get people excited about the playoffs.
Go.
Charlie's like, look, let me tell you what's whack.
Hey,
let me tell you what's garbage.
Here is the only analysis you need to know. Brandon Vasquez has staked his goal-scoring season on his pancake tradition. So he's already got his pregame meal is already breakfast.
Chisel it in stone. FC Cincinnati through.
Yeah.
They've won this game before it's even started.
He's going hat trick, 3 goals, 3 assists.
Easy. Play all the games at noon.
What about Brenner?
Yeah, he'll score 3 of the goals.
The flip side of that. Yeah, that's where the assists are going, Charlie. Come on, keep up.
Okay, here we go.
Keep up.
I'm in.
Galaxy Nashville at 3 p.m. Eastern as well. This is on Saturday. Again, Unimas for that early game and 2 day in, MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app. When I say MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app, I mean you can go to MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app. It's not on Twitter as it was during the regular season. We will be there with pregame and postgame shows, like traditional studio analysis. Here's what happened. Here's the highlights. Here are quotes. And we're sending people on site. It should be a really, really good time. Univision picked up Galaxy Nashville. As you might expect, you've got I presume to be the MVP in Hani Mukhtar, but more importantly, probably for Univision, Chicharito, Ricky Puig. The stars are coming out. Again, MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app. Then Saturday, we'll preview those as well. Sunday's ABC and ESPN, Monday's FS1. We got all the full game previews coming up today from the AT&T 5G virtual studios, all the big questions. Stu Holden is going to join us here in a little bit. Diego Fagundez of Austin will be with us in just a second. So we are hyped about the playoffs, but we have to congratulate one of our own. We have to show our love to one of our own. That is Charlie Davies. It is 13 years to the day, Charlie, since the accident that changed your life. Before we get going in this show, I just want to say, on Extra Time, some of the best times of my life, professionally and personally, over however long you've been. How long has it been? How long have you been on the show?
Since 2018.
Yeah, it feels like forever.
I know.
4 years, man.
Well, we've seen each other from a distance since 2011, right?
Yeah, and then it was, I remember interviewing a mustachioed Charlie Davies at Gillette.
That was not
as
a great
they sealed a spot in MLS Cup. But anything to say, Charlie, on this anniversary for you?
I'm grateful, and my wife was like, "Oh, it's such a gruesome picture. How'd you put that up?" And I'm like, "It's not gruesome." For me, I look back and I say, this was a rebirth. I'm so much more appreciative and open and transparent and happy and positive because I can always look back at that memory and say, it could always be worse. I'm rock bottom. I am absolute rock bottom. I've lost the dream of my life, what I've worked all so hard for to play in a World Cup. It's gone. But what I still have is this motivation to live life to the fullest and to appreciate the people that I have in my life and the things that I can do. That, you know, I eventually had to learn how to walk again, and I was in a wheelchair for a while, and being able to eat and take a shower, all those things that we always take for granted. I wake up every day and I'm like, it's another day. Here we go. I can do all these things. And you never know when your life will come to a complete stop or a change, a drastic change. So you just try and make the most of every single minute that you can. And I've always thoroughly enjoyed working with you guys. I love the sport, as you know, but these things don't always end up being as great as they are. And I've absolutely loved every second of being on this show with you guys.
Charlie, listen, I'm a big fan of yours. I prefer the Monday shows just because it's so great to hear.
He's trying to rile me up. He's trying to rile me up.
No, Charlie.
Monday shows.
You know what I was thinking about that whole time? You know, outside of the appreciation for Charlie and wow, what has he been through? He's like, every day I wake up, I love everything except for day games in the playoffs. If you try to make me play a day game in the playoffs,
I'll still do it with a smile on my face.
hell no.
But if I had to choose.
All right, we will get to the games in a second, but we do have to clear the air as well. We had some listeners hit us up here, Dave. As we alluded to here, there might be interpersonal problems between you and I, and maybe you can address this more. I was asked to choose between you and Matt Doyle on an Austin FC podcast last night. No context.
He chose
Doyle. I chose you. I chose you, but here I wake up this
Do
morning.
I have to go listen to confirm this?
No, it's confirmed.
I think he chose you just because he knew that you had
these
Austin. I've seen the beef. So whoever wrote this, you are right.
Justin Witt. Yeah. Justin Witt says, "Is there beef between Weeby and Goss? Is it real, or does Goss always just sound exasperated?" And then Columbus Crew Cake, Brian Moore, says, "Oh my God, I always think the same thing. It seems pretty obvious that Dave does not like Andrew, and he does not hide it well. Okay. It's kind of awkward sometimes, to be honest." So,
well, when you guys were in the studio, it was like one of my first times, I think, coming into New York City. There was that moment where you guys were talking before, and Goss just picked up a water and just chucked it on you. It was like, I absolutely can't. I can't agree with you.
Remember this?
Yeah, he just absolutely splashed you. It was like, I can't deal with this.
That was probably right before I broke the table. I like to punch inanimate objects.
Did I take the folding? Was that the time I took the folding chair and wrapped it around Dave's skull?
No, I think you took the boom, that hanging
boom
and just slammed it into
baseball batted you off set.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is how things go down here. Okay.
Listen, I got no problems with Andrew Weeby. I got zero problems. I did not like the way you did your bracket video. I will say this.
Oh, it all comes
after
out.
mine,
Okay.
so I had to watch
transparency. I like this.
Transparency.
Okay.
They asked you to predict what you thought would happen, and you went, "I love chaos," and then yelled about a bunch of things you don't think are going to happen. Could happen because it is a bracket. So that I was less of a fan of. But no, I think we've been doing this show long enough that at this point we're basically siblings, and I think this is how siblings get along, right?
Yeah.
Also,
they fight, they disagree, and when they disagree, they don't hold back on it. But after the show's over or in the next moment, it's not like there's any animosity.
It's like
just
teammates.
Yeah,
exactly.
I will say one thing you can't stand is contradiction. That you have no patience for anyone.
Me.
Yes.
Yeah. I like people to be consistent in the way.
You love to snap on Weeby.
Yeah.
Especially with his name pronunciations.
Oh, I don't know that I'm as bad as Doyle on that one. I will say this, the Columbus Crew Cake. Welcome to also being around a New Yorker. We don't react very well, especially in my family. Like if you say something my mom agrees with, it sounds like she's screaming at you to anyone else in the world. So if you say something we disagree with, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and look, I will say this.
So either way,
if you get this vibe off of recorded public podcasts, I would invite you to be around us when there are no microphones or cameras. There have been myriad bar discussions over the years, and you throw Ben Bear into this and Abner Aceves into this as well, and you better watch out of just yelling, screaming, but that's just the vibe, right? Like it's all in fun. Like it's
just
not
the way we talk.
Yeah, it's all in fun. Okay, you know what else is fun? the MLS Bracket Challenge. You can fill out yours at MLSsoccer.com and the
Oh,
MLS.
I'm
You like
acing
that?
this.
Yeah,
I'm
like that?
acing this challenge.
That was well done.
I do like the transition.
Yeah, 30 total winners. That's more than ever before for the Bracket Challenge in the playoffs. First place prize, how much you think it is? Straight cash.
$100.
I'm gonna go.
$100.
I'm gonna go $25,000.
$2,500, which I'm guessing Charlie tried to cheat off of the rundown and added an extra zero.
Honestly, I'm not. I did not look at the rundown. So
Okay, that's just
Yeah.
that's just the life Charlie lives. When you got Woodgrain behind you, you add zeros to things.
Yeah.
you know how the rundown works. I just come out of nowhere
you
and
fire.
you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You're all right, though. Charlie
you're off
doesn't
script.
wake up for anything below that 10K number.
Exactly.
You can't even get him on the phone if you're not talking pure 5 digits.
So $2,500 is first prize. That is not an insignificant amount of cash. There's 30 total winners as well. Brackets are going to lock at the beginning of the first game on Saturday. I repeat, they are going to lock at the beginning of the first game on Saturday. Go to MLSsoccer.com, fill it out. You pick your winners. Into the conference finals, you pick total goals in those matches. Then you pick a final score in MLS Cup as well, and those will be your tiebreakers. Ours are already in. I guess I can't change mine because there's a public video out, and also Andres says that we're going to put those in our pregame shows. So I'm locked in on Team Chaos. Very
Yes,
fortunate that Team
contradiction.
Chaos was available as a name for my team. Let's start with this as we go big picture before we dig down
Wait,
deep.
can I just say I'm so excited about my bracket challenge team name? It's David Gaztag. Like my last name.
Oh, you don't even
Gaza.
have Philly getting to the final. That's crazy.
I have Philly winning the whole thing. Charlie always wants to get me in trouble. He's always trying to get me in
You know what really made that? That's crazy. Oh my God. I can't believe it. Oh,
I was so proud of myself. I was so proud.
You know what I will
that's
say?
a really cool name.
Charlie likes to denigrate the Monday show because he's not on it. I will say, and hopefully the Monday show doesn't listen, aka Doyle and Kalen.
0 chance.
Oh,
Or
there's
Kaylee
zero.
might.
Yeah,
I will
Kalen.
say 0 chance.
I think Kalen probably. I don't think Doyle does.
Okay.
I think the banter on the Thursday show
Far exceeds the
little
Monday show.
little
It's
bit better.
not even close. Let's be real.
Little bit
So
better.
Monday gets the
Charlie
capital
Davies,
whack.
who saw?
The whack of the week.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, shots fired. If you wanted to know where there is beef, Charlie just revealed it. Let's do this. We're looking at our brackets. We're talking about who we picked. Which side of the bracket is better? East or West? Which is going to be more entertaining? Which you more locked in on, Dave?
I've said for a while, I think the Eastern Conference is stronger. I think it's stronger from the top. I have 3 teams that are clear MLS Cup favorites. And Philly and Montreal are 2 of them. Outside of that, you've got an NYCFC team turning it back on, but you really do have an Inter Miami team that on their day can beat anyone. I don't think they're at a space to do it 4 times in a month. So I don't think they have a shot to go to win MLS Cup. But any single time they step on the field, if Pozuelo and Higuain are healthy, with the floor they've created, how well they play defensively as a unit, they've got a shot. And so now I'm looking at a series where outside of really Orlando, Montreal, it feels like it's a toss-up in the first 3 rounds. Philly, while as good as they are, they don't have the same margin maybe against, as some other teams have had that are top seeds in the past. So it's a toss-up in the East, but it's a toss-up because of quality, not because of question marks.
I'm gonna go. You know me. I'm more of like a narratives entertainment guy. So I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna go the West, just because I think we're looking at a potential setup if you get chalk, so to speak, in round 1 of El Tráfico in one conference semi, and then Copa Tejas in the other.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, to have those matches be the one that decides then who will go to the finals and ultimately MLS Cup, to have that sort of lore created again between those teams. And we know how much there is between LAFC and the Galaxy. They've had these playoff meetings before. The regular season meetings have been just, under a microscope since the very beginning. But for Dallas and Austin to have that in Austin's first appearance, I really enjoy that. I will give you this. I do think that the round 1 matches in the East are better than the round 1 matchups in the West. LA Nashville, awesome matchup. Chicharito, Puig, Hani, really like it. Nashville was supposed to be better. Now they go on the road. Can they get it done? Can Hani be the MVP in a playoff environment? TBD. And then Chicharito and Puig it's the Galaxy. Like, I've got a shrine over here. You know how I feel about that. But Dallas, Minnesota, we'll watch it. We'll enjoy it. Does it have the same vibes as NYCFC Miami? It doesn't, to be fair. And Austin RSL, really there for it. I think it's like it's an incredible, perhaps upset potential game, and the environment is going to be choice.
So you're still going with the West?
I'm going West.
Conference?
No, I'm going West. Yeah, I'm going West.
With all that, you're still going West. It's got to be Eastern Conference, no doubt. Philly, we know how they play. It's so north and south, kind of almost on the borderline of chaotic, but it's not. It's very controlled, and that's why they're been so strong this year from top to bottom defensively. You talk about well-rounded squads. Andre Blake, the back line, the continuity they have. They can attack the midfield, both sides of the ball, hard workers. And then Carranza and Mikaelua, they have a partnership. It finally feels like they're all working on the same page, which hadn't been the case for most of the year. This is a very difficult team to beat, but they're exciting to watch. And so they're going to play either Red Bulls, and we know how crazy that game is going to be, or Cincinnati, who's, I think, also an attractive team to watch in the attacking phase of the game. Defensively, they're sometimes all over the place. And
yeah, well, that's attractive too, just for neutrals.
Right. But that's why I question how far they can make a run. Given that they have Lucho Acosta, Brennan Vasquez, guys that can score goals, that can beat you 1v1, that play with each other, make good runs. But defensively, I think there's too many question marks.
Let me ask you this, Charlie.
Yeah.
Is there anybody in MLS who's paying it, like neutrals, other teams, trying to find a rooting interest that aren't Red Bulls fans that don't want to see Cincy advance? Every bone in my body, apologies, Red Bulls fans.
Everybody.
Every bone in my body wants to see Philly Light in Cincinnati with that attacking trio go to the banks of the Delaware. Every single bone in my body. That might be the game I would be most excited for, even with El Tráfico.
No,
even if Copa Tejas.
Yeah.
No, I promise you.
Yeah, he's now he's just trying to play these games. Yep. Yeah. Way to catch him. Way to catch him, guys. I will say, there's not a single, in my mind, there's not a single person outside of a Red Bulls fan that looks at Red Bulls and say, man, that is such a great, attractive style of soccer. Like, I can't wait to watch them play next week. It's ugly. And they win, especially on the road, because they are so aggressive. They don't change the way they play from home to away matches. It's the same way every single time. That's our identity. That's the way we play. But their lack of ability to control the game and slow it down and dictate the tempo and keep possession in the attacking half, that for me is why they're not going to have a real chance to get to MLS Cup. And I don't think people will want to watch that because of that style. I wish they were a little bit more adaptable in the way they played, but because it's so predictable, I think that works against them.
Can I remind you guys of something that I personally had completely forgot about, which is that in addition to the Golden Boot draft, if you've forgotten, I won that.
Let them know.
Just making sure you remember.
Oh yeah, Charlie, just in case it isn't the only thing we've talked about for the last 6 weeks. Saying let him know.
Really?
Hey, that's
Come
fine.
on,
Look,
Charlie,
when you win things, like you got a ring on your finger.
So
everything you do, you take a drink of water, you see the ring. You brush your teeth, you see the ring. You go to sleep at night, your hand's a little heavier on the pillow, you see the ring. Like, that's the way it works.
Did you
when you cook dinner, Dave, you've got your Golden Boot wooden spoon. Like, you always remember that.
Oh no.
Right? Like, it's a little bit different for
I
all of us.
Listen, Charlie, it's fine. I'm playing the long game, dude. It's a keeper league. I'm looking at Caleb Porter over here winning MLS Cup. I'm checking my watch for 2022.
Don't do that to Caleb on
Wow.
this.
I'm just
we
saying,
got more.
man.
We got more on that. We got more on Caleb later because Charlie didn't get to have his
I'm
say.
just saying, this is a front-loaded success for Andrew Weedy.
Yeah, we'll see.
How
We'll
about
see
the
about
keeper
that. We'll see
league?
about that. Meanwhile, Doyle went out and drafted like guys that like Tati can't keep him. We'll see how it works out. Yeah,
right?
well, that
For sure.
that was a good. Yeah, that was a good one. Trophy draft. We did a trophy draft. How many drafts could we do? We tested the theory, and we all took teams. And remember, you and I, Dave, made a trade. I think I traded you. I want to say maybe the second pick.
I think so.
For 2 spots, and I used that to get NYCFC, and I got a Campeones Cup out of it. So here is where the ETR inaugural trophy draft stands. Charlie Davies tied for first with 2 trophies so far. Seattle Sounders won CONCACAF Champions League for Mr. Chuck D. LAFC, another good pick, won the Supporters Shield.
Oh
for
no,
Charlie.
really?
Dave, you had Philly, so that tiebreaker hurt
Yeah.
because you would have been right there. It would have been you and me at the top instead of Charlie. Anyway,
Would've,
Charlie, you also
could've,
had San
should've,
Jose.
didn't.
San Jose was
Vibes.
your spoon attempt. Didn't work out, but it was a good
Oh,
try there.
yeah, it was
You
a
have
good attempt.
the Galaxy, LAFC, and Dallas in these playoffs to win MLS Cup, and you have 2 trophies so far this season.
Oh my God. Kalen took SKC with his number 1
He
pick, and
did.
Doyle took New England.
Yeah, he did. He did.
I
Didn't work out well for
unreal.
them. Doyle took Toronto.
New England and Toronto with his top 2 picks.
Yeah, this was not his shining moment.
Not at all.
I had 4 picks. All 4 of mine are in
And
the
he went
playoffs.
Charlotte spoon pick, which was a total miss as well.
I know.
Tell
And
him,
Kalen took
guys.
Houston as his spoon pick. So whenever he
No,
wants
he
to come
said it
on
was
this,
an open cup pick. That was an
Oh,
open cup pick for Kalen.
see, now it's coming. The memories are coming back to you now.
Yeah.
I had NYCFC, so I have a Campeones Cup. I had Orlando. That was a fortunate Open Cup victory for me, probably. Then I have Minnesota Red Bulls. So I have 3 teams in the East. I have 1 team in the West.
Because you
Try to
took
get MLS Cup.
Orlando. This was during the Pato comeback player of the year.
Yes,
Orlando
I
was your
I
MLS Cup.
Yeah, man. When
Yeah.
if Pato was still here, watch out. But even still, maybe they'll make a miracle run out of the 7th seed. Dave, you had Philly, good pick. Atlanta, not so good. Nashville, pretty good pick in the playoffs. That's 2 playoff teams remaining for you. You had Vancouver. That was the final Canadian team on the board. You snatched them, got the Canadian championship. So 1 trophy there for you. Columbus, almost into the playoffs.
Do I get the Trillium Cup?
Yeah, no, you don't. But your final pick was Austin, which gives you a great chance out of the 2 seed in the West. So if you win MLS Cup, it will be a 3-way tie at the top. Anders was given the leftovers, aka the teams that nobody chose: Rapids, Timbers, and DC, and he won a trophy because DC won the spoon for Anders. So congratulations to Anders for getting on the board. He didn't even make a pick, and he has more trophies than Doyle and Kalen.
So we biffed it on DC in a way, but I think we get some credit that I don't think Colorado and Portland were to many people obvious at the time to avoid, right? Portland's coming off an MLS Cup hosting. Colorado won the West. So I think that's a little credit to our group.
Yeah, we got smart. We knew they were going to be in that middle of the pack zone, maybe in, maybe out of the playoffs. Not a guarantee for a trophy. And let's drag Doyle and Kalen once again. Doyle, New England, Toronto, Miami, Chicago, and Charlotte. Just an absolute murderer's row of mediocrity.
Monday's show is taking a bigger L right now.
So just Miami for Doyle. Which makes sense because, as we've noted many times, he looks exactly like Gonzalo Higuain. So his doppelganger is going for MLS Cup. And then Kalen, Sporting Kansas City, Montreal, RSL, Cincinnati, Houston. That's a decent little group in the playoffs. I mean, he's going to need
Is that for the spoon? The playoffs for the spoon?
Well, he's got a 7 seed in RSL. They got to the conference finals last year in a similar position. Cincinnati, fun one to root on. And then Montreal is his big one. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. They got to get on the board. But let's go to who we have actually winning it.
Mm-hmm.
Who's in your final, Charlie, in the bracket? And who's winning it all for you? Make your predictions. Put it on the record.
Yes, I'm gonna put it all on the record right here. LAFC takes on Nashville, who beats the Galaxy. So I'm sorry for your El Trafico. I don't think that's happening. Dallas beats Minnesota. Austin beats RSL. Dallas beats Austin. So LAFC, Dallas, Western Conference Final. LAFC, they're at home the whole way. Boom, MLS Cup. Other side, Philly, Cincinnati. Cincinnati beats Red Bulls. Philly takes care of Cincinnati at home. Then New York City beats Miami. Montreal beats Orlando. Montreal beats New York City FC. So Montreal, Philly. I know it goes down to the wire. I'm thinking PKs. Philly go. Montreal goes to.
It's like a recruit. It's like a recruit has the 2 hats, on signing day, and it's like, I signed with Florida. Just kidding, Miami.
Hey, I was a former duper, so it was tough. I want to see them succeed, but I have to go with.
But Montreal, right?
Here we go. Montreal, LAFC. They're at home. All the expectations, but their players are ready for these expectations. The pressure, all this built up to this moment, and they do the double.
How many goals does Gareth Bale, goals plus assists for Gareth Bale in this run that you have imagined? How many for him in the playoffs? Just be 3 games because he's going to just conference semis, conference finals, MLS Cup. How many goals and assists?
I'll go 2 goals.
Ooh.
1 assist.
Wow. So he's more productive in 3 playoff games than.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
go with that.
This is his time, I guess. All right, Dave. What's your final? Who you got winning it all? You could go through the full bracket if you'd like. You don't have to.
I don't have it in front of me, although I guess I can remember it. It's not that hard. I have FC Dallas winning the Western Conference, facing off
Wow.
against Philadelphia. So if we start with the West, I've got Dallas at home against Minnesota. I know they were able to come back against Vancouver, but this isn't Vancouver, and so Dallas a better defensive team. But what Vancouver is, they can play more in possession. I think Quignon and Soria are interesting pieces to just make Reynoso's life difficult. A lot of this relies on Jesus Ferreira and Alan Velasco stepping up. That's a huge question mark. Those are young guys, but they're talented guys. Ferreira's been here before, and I just think with Leggett in the team and the guarantee of performance from him and Paul Arriola at a pretty high level, those two alone could be elite in games to win you a playoff game. They don't need to be. That sets the stage for Jesus and Alan Velasco to be good enough to get them over the top. I have Austin at home to RSL. So then you have the Copa Tejas there, which I think is fun and exciting, but I just think it's a little bit too early in the process for Austin, and Jette's getting the start this weekend. Rigoni's clearly not going to be a part of this. It's just not all there yet for Austin. I've got the Galaxy. They're the hottest team in the Western Conference. And no one's picking them in our brackets, at least, to come out.
Do you
Me and
believe
you,
in
man. It's
them
me and you.
defensively though? You know what I'm saying? It's like I get Ricky Puch, he's a baller. No one's doubting that. But I don't see how that's going to really help them defensively because there are too many question marks with this team.
To me, there's a lot on Nashville. There's just no belief outside of Hani Mukhtar that they can deliver, and I don't know if he can.
Teal Bunbury, well, come on, T.
That's fair. I think that's a fair question. I think that's fair that he changes the calculus a bit. So I don't know, but that's just the way I see it with the Galaxy.
We'll dig in more. Don't worry, we'll dig in more there.
And then in the East, I've got Miami. I think going to NYCFC, they're pissed. One, about the stadium change and the timing and all that. I think that's kind of the edge you want for Phil Neville and his group. It's not Yankee Stadium, so that full advantage is not there for NYCFC that Inter Miami loses. And I've said it a million times down the stretch, and they haven't proven me wrong yet. They don't fall apart. They don't not show up. Is Pozuelo healthy? I don't know. Is Campagna healthy? I don't know. The ceiling for them, questionable. The floor is really high. I picked FC Cincinnati. I picked Montreal to play Philly in the Eastern Conference Finals, Philly to host MLS Cup and beat FC Dallas. It's interesting. You were sort of talking about the narratives and the movement. It's interesting that Philly, Red Bulls, and Cincinnati all ended up on the same side. And then you've got like a Miami, NYC, Montreal. Those are the two diametrically opposed styles of soccer in the East on opposite sides of the bracket, and then sort of facing off in the final, unless Orlando gets there, in which I would admit for the second straight year that I know nothing about Major League Soccer.
That's. Can I ask you this before? Actually, I guess my pick's got to go in here. You kind of dragged me a little bit there. I did go Team Chaos. It doesn't ever work out for me to go like with the actual logic that I have. It just always blows up in my face.
It is MLS.
It just never works out. So I kind of went with what I wanted and would be most entertained by. So I have Galaxy beating Nashville. I have Galaxy in the playoffs. Chicharito, Ricky Puig, Brugman, this sort of resurgent side knocking off LAFC, who I'm not going to say they crumble under the pressure, but there are vulnerabilities there for them. Austin FC, Dallas, Copa Tejas, Austin wins. Another home game for Austin, both in the conference semis, then in the conference finals, but they finally lose at home to the Galaxy. Galaxy are going to MLS Cup. In the East, Philly obviously is going through. Cincinnati gets there. Cincinnati pulled the upset. Cincinnati have played Philly really, really tough this year, so I don't think that's like a huge David and Goliath thing.
Yep.
NYCFC through. Montreal through. Montreal to face Cincy, hosting them. Montreal wins. Montreal goes to the MLS Cup final. Club de Football Montreal are your MLS Cup champions by a score of 3-2 in the MLS Cup final. Stade Saputo seeing the big game. That's what I got going there. It's either, as I said, I'm either going to be a genius or a moron, and probably the odds are with idiot.
Well, guys, what?
Yeah, I think
You-
somebody
know.
in Montreal called me an idiot savant, and they're like, I love it.
I was
but-
gonna say,
What a
I was gonna say
compliment.
it's
It's
normally
like,
both
oh.
all rolled into one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe overthought that one just a little bit. Can I ask you this though, Dave? Because I put out a poll here, and I asked whether the bye and the extra rest for LAFC and the Union is what? What is it? Fill in the blank. Advantage or disadvantage? We had among the 500 votes on it, 72% said it's a disadvantage. Only 28% said it's an advantage. This historically has been an issue in these playoffs, but we don't have the international break to extend that layoff. It's a little bit different this year. Yes, it's a break. No, they're not in action on the first weekend, but then they'll both play that next Thursday, the number 1 seed. So what? It's like a 10-ish day.
9 days, I think.
Yeah, layoff between decision day and that game. Is it an advantage or a disadvantage? Does it matter?
I think this year it shifted to an advantage. And I agree that it was a disadvantage in the past with that layoff. 9 days is not a lot. It really is you don't really miss your rotation, what your schedule's like, all of that. You don't fall out of rhythm, but you do get a rest. And I've pointed this out. Alejandro Bedoya might be the most important piece for Philly. They are a team that could use the extra rest to get him back, to let him be fit, to be able to start in that game. You also have the other teams coming off short rest to play against you after having to battle it out for a first round game. So this doesn't feel like the Revs, going on vacation for 2 weeks, then going on walkabout for 2 weeks, then scrimmaging the Chicago Fire and coming back to play a game. This is pretty straightforward and normal, and it feels like the proper advantage for the number 1 seeds.
Facts.
Kalen always talks about he loved playing in the opening round game because it gave you that energy, but that was, again, in a more spaced out playoffs. Because take away just the next round, right? Let's say you do win the first 2. I think you're now at a disadvantage having played 180 to potentially 240 minutes in 5 days to then go into the conference finals with good rest. So I think in many ways, it's a disadvantage to the 4 or 5 seeds, which is the way it should be. And it is an advantage to the 1 team.
I mean, ultimately, you're winning a game you don't have to play, basically.
Yeah.
Like it's a win that's handed to you based on your regular season. Not only that, like you can't discount that you get home field advantage all the way through. So what would you rather have? The opportunity to tune up or the opportunity to say, cool, we're going to rest a little bit. It's not that long of a layup and we still get that home field advantage. I think at this point, the format sort of normalized. Would I be okay with 8-8? I still would be okay with 8-8. I think it would be entertaining, but as it stands, no complaints about the format this year. I think it fits perfectly. And on November 5th, I think we'll crown a deserved champion as always. Before we get to the stars, who's going to go
Here's
ahead.
my one little piece of input. If it was 8-8, I think that a tie should go to the higher seed.
I like that.
I don't think it's a big enough advantage, a 1-game knockout soccer game after the work you've done all year.
I like that. Put that in mind to the decision makers, the powers that be. If you're listening, tie goes to the higher seed, but I think just the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. And I could be open to even going further. If you're the 4 seed and the 5 seed, you did better than the regular season. Let's put as much importance into the regular season as we can. Push that down the line. We'll see what comes of that. Before we get to the star whose rise is going to rise the most in these playoffs, who do you want to win? We had a question from Sergeant Pickles about like whether or not we've put out our, hey, your team didn't make it, so you should root for XYZ yet. He says he's a Sounders fan who is all in on the Austin train. #Verde. Who do you want to win? If okay,
that's realistic or
no, let's do this.
RSL and
Let's imagine, Charlie, you're a neutral and you're not just Revs TID.
Yeah.
Sorry,
you didn't even react to that. I appreciate
I'm not. Because I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna take the bite.
Okay.
I'm not gonna do it.
Let's say who should
a mature performance from
yeah, very mature,
it's
very
composed.
measured. Yeah, he's not being drawn in. Certainly good discipline on your part.
He's keeping his shape.
What's a team that neutrals should root for? And like why? What would a neutral be looking for in your mind?
A neutral, in my mind, you have to take into account the supporters, the home stadium. Even if it was a traveling, just how committed are they to the team? Then I look at history. I look at the Philadelphia Union as a team that I think has yet to win MLS Cup, has always been bounced out of US Open Cup finals. The fans are so committed to this group playing in Chester, I just feel that this team, I think I'd like to see them win an MLS Cup, especially with the development academy at YSC, everything they put into their infrastructure and the talent they're developing. For them to win MLS Cup, given how much they've put into it, that makes sense to me. And if you're a neutral, being like, oh, Brandon Aronson came from that, and Mark McKenzie, and look at Andre Blake starting for the Jamaican national team. What an incredible goalkeeper of the year. Alejandro Bedoya, like gutting it out, and a U.S. World Cup veteran. For me, this and Jim Curtin, a Philly guy, played in the league,
Easy to root
big
for is what you're saying.
This for me would make sense, and it's realistic. I mean, they just missed out on the Supporter Shield. They've won the Supporter Shield before. It feels like this is their time to do it, right? And the reason why I didn't pick them to win or get to the MLS Cup final, I think, is because of all that pressure. For me, they haven't been to that stage yet. So if they got to an Eastern Conference final versus a Montreal or New York City FC, I think that pressure of playing at home, not having lost all year, could finally catch up to them. And that's why I think it goes to PKs. But if I'm a neutral, that's who you support.
Maybe last year too, you would say that too, because it felt like they were on the precipice of doing it, and then obviously they had a bunch of players ruled out because of COVID.
They still outplayed NYCFC. And
well, sure, but they didn't get there. They didn't get the opportunity. But this is like the payoff on the back end. I'm seeing what you're putting down here, Charlie. I think Philly's a good one for the neutrals.
I think from at least the way I see rooting for sports as a neutral, I think it's tough because most of the teams have never won. That it's actually easy to root for a lot of the teams that are in, right? Mm-hmm. It's not, I don't want to see Seattle again, right? Like that doesn't really exist this year. The Galaxy probably fill that spot for a lot of people. Maybe LAFC, but LAFC have never won MLS Cup.
Oh, LAFC's in that whole
right, and that's completely fair. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you just talked about it, Charlie. You just gave the pitch for why neutrals should like the number one seed in the East. Like they are unexpected. Montreal, maybe even more than that, right? And so then you go all the way down. NYCFC has built that roster properly. They play great soccer. The Red Bulls are unexpected. They found their identity again. Young pieces. What, Charlie?
Don't say. Are you going to make your pitch for Red Bulls?
Did you pick the Red Bulls in preseason to be fourth in the East?
No, but come on, we can all agree. Like, if you're a neutral, no offense to the Red Bulls, but
yeah,
if you are a neutral, I advise you to search MLS Today on Spotify or any of your podcast apps.
See, if I had a bag, I'm chucking it
Daniel Edelman yesterday.
I'm taking the water.
Talk about
this is incredible.
Listen to Daniel Edelman talk about when his grandfather used to bring him to Red Bull Arena and watching Thierry Henry.
I'm gonna throw up
and now be the starter at center mid.
Hit the mute button, Anders. Hit the mute button. I can't deal with this. He's trying to get neutrals to support.
Here's the thing.
New York. Who's your neutral team, Dave? If somebody came up to you at the bar and was like, "Oh, hey, I'm an MLS fan. Who should I?" But my team's out. I'm let's just say because Sergeant Pickles is. I'm a Sounders fan.
Okay.
Or you can pick the other conference because maybe Sounders fans. I'm surprised he would root for Austin in his own conference, but
I think he just only owns green. Probably
that's fair. Actually, one of the hashtags was Rave Green, Verde Rave Green. So maybe it was a green thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who are you telling them that you'll have the most fun with this team?
Well, I already anointed Orlando the Vibes 2022 MLS Cup champs. I have spent a lot of time talking to guys on Inter Miami. I think there's a lot of people to root for on that team, but it's got to be Montreal. If you believe in proper club building, in development like I do, not just for players, right? Wilfred Nancy being given the pathway through the academy. If you believe in teams that are better than the sum of their parts, but also have pieces that could be, European stars in the future, as well as a fan base that's probably earned more than enough success with what they've had to deal with. And I think Stade Saputo would be fun.
Oh, yeah.
For MLS Cup. It'll bounce. It feels like an old school, like South American European stadium. So a lot about, I think that is kind of an easy one for a lot to root for. But again, I can make this pitch for a lot of these teams. If you are tuning in to see Austin FC play at Q2, I want a second one of those, right? You watch round one, you want them to host round 2. And I could argue the same with, I think, many of the teams that are in, because there isn't really like that giant outside of probably LAFC.
It's a
Yeah.
proper choice, mate. It's a
Yeah, mate.
proper choice, mate.
Yeah, your Jamaican's better than your English.
Yeah,
I'm with
no.
you on Montreal too, and
Aw.
I like Montreal as well because it's almost like a warm up for the World Cup too. Because I think Canada is going to be like one of the neutrals, darlings in the World Cup as well. So you're sort of getting an early exposure if you don't have it already, which you really should. It's like Alistair Johnson and Kamal Miller, to Ismail Kone, to maybe Joel Waterman as well. It'll be your final look at Georgi Mihailovic before he goes to the Netherlands. It'll be a final look at Victor Wanyama in Montreal. I don't know. Maybe he could stay in MLS if somebody wants to pay him. It seems like Kai Kamara, Kalen's made an incredible case for him as a guy that you should root for the rest of this year, and he convinced me on the comeback player of the year as well. So yeah, I think I'm with Montreal, and you're right about Austin.
You switched your vote?
No, we're talking about neutrals. I'm just saying.
No, I thought on Kai on
I
comeback
did switch
player.
my vote.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he was convincing.
All right.
He was really convincing, and I thought it was interesting too. Instead of always making it about an injury, to make it about something a little bit different and to acknowledge.
Huge knock to the Finnish league and the people of Finland to say
yeah,
coming
boy,
back from just living there is the biggest comeback.
Sorry, Finland. Apologies.
I had a good time in Helsinki. That's it.
Yeah, it's tough for Anders, the proud Finn that he is.
Yeah, that is tough. That was disrespectful of me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, very, very much so. All right, whose star is going to rise the most in these playoffs? And before Charlie can jump in, it's obviously Ricky Puig. What a wonderful player he is. Most everybody outside of myself really doubted his ability to make an impact immediately on Major League Soccer. And I don't want to pat myself on the back here, but credit where credit's due. The very moment that the Galaxy signed him, I came on this show and I said, look, he's going to turn things around for the Galaxy. You guys don't think so, but probably an MVP candidate, at least MVP level. And, now he's here doing it, Charlie. And I just wish that you could have seen it the way I did from the start. And had you done so, you would understand why I'm picking Ricky Puig as my star who's rise the most in these playoffs.
The funny thing is, I'm not taking that bait again. I'm going to stay composed.
The title of this show is going to be an hour and 20 minutes of us trying to bait Charlie Davies.
I'm not taking any of it. I'm just batting your lures away. What I'm going to go with is Ismail Kone, because I think the Montreal team ends up making it to MLS Cup final. I think with this squad, you have a 20-year-old player who Wilfred Nancy has helped develop and give confidence to. And he wins about 60% of his duels. He's probably 86% of his passes are completed. I mean, this is a kid who suffers one of the most fouls on his team because of his ability to use his body well. He's good in possession. He's good at anticipating. And talk about link-up play. For this team, you have Kai Kamara, you have Romel Kyoto, you have these players who can break you down in a variety of different ways, but you need a strong midfield, and he gives them that. That's why you can believe in Montreal, because there's been times where you're like, man, this is a suspect back line, but Kamal Miller has really grown, Alistair Johnston. So I think in the grand scheme of things, you're looking at a player who a lot of European teams have their eye on because of his super high potential, but his ability now to make an impact now. So Ismail Kone is going to be the guy that I think really lifts Montreal to make this run.
And then goes to the World Cup and probably gets sold as well.
I like that pick because when you talk about this category, it's like a lot of times when you go into a game, there are things that are set, right? This is what this team wants to do. This is what this team wants to do. This is how they match up. Kone's a guy who can shift that. When a game's not going the way Montreal wants it, or it's neutral, Kone's a guy who sees the field differently and makes things happen, and good and bad. But I think even the bad, sometimes you need to open yourself up to get the other team to come out a little bit. And I think Kone is capable of all of that. He's also probably the next guy up in a lot of different ways. If Georgie, if Wanyama, if Piet, if Kyoto, if Kai, if Mason Toy, if any of them are out, there's a pretty good chance Kone's the next guy in and things shift. So I think he's going to have a really big impact on this team. And I think he's a big part of their ceiling. I feel like I have to stick with, if I'm going to pick FC Dallas to win the West, it's got to be Jesus Ferreira and Alan Velasco. I'm putting a lot of eggs in that basket, but I said it on Monday, Jesus and Servania and Paxton, they stepped up in 2019 on the road in Seattle and were a little overmatched They stepped up in 2020 as well in Portland. So it feels like there's enough background now with Jesus, at least, to believe that he can handle the moment. And he's the linchpin for that team. He makes things go. Minnesota feels like a great matchup for him. He's either going to drop deep and launch those wingers onto two center backs who cannot stay with them, or he's going to be the one breaking through lines himself. Charlie, I don't know if you saw it come out. He's the recorded third fastest player in Major League Soccer, so he's got that speed.
You think that list
you know what?
is factual? You think that is actually the fastest
No,
person?
you're right. I should probably not use
Jones. You think DeJuan Jones is not even in the top 10? Let's be real. Come on.
Charlie.
Would love to
Numbers
see
don't
some
lie.
old school stats from Hammarby, just to see a little Charlie Davies top speed, just to see, just as just comparison's sake.
I'll tell you right now, I will be higher than that. I will be in the top. I will be in the top 3. You best believe that.
Yeah, but you know those surfaces in Scandinavia, like really like
Yeah.
cold. Like it's kind of like greased lightning, man. Like you hit those things, you go 5 miles per hour faster than you would on, on the fescue here in North America.
True,
It's
true.
very environmental in that sense. I was trolling Charlie a little bit with Ricky Pooch, but I have Galaxy going. I'm very serious. Like he is a huge star. We know that. We knew that coming from Barcelona, where he just never really was able to make his mark. He is doing that immediately in MLS. He raised the Galaxy's ceiling significantly, but he also raised the floor, because what they struggle the most with is turning the ball over in bad spots and exposing that back line. In particular, because those fullbacks fly forward, then it's 2 center backs that have shown they can't defend in space, 1v1, and a goalkeeper who hasn't been as good this year as he has been in the past. Ricky Puig, Brugman, Marky Delgado, much more secure with the ball. And in Puig, there's a reason why he's more secure. 1, it's the technical ability. 2, he's shifty. If you're trying to mark him, if you're trying to take the ball away from him, you don't know where he's going to go. You know he can create space on his own. That's what he's done. Chicharito has thrived off of it. I think he is going to be a guy that leads the Galaxy deep in these playoffs. So that's why I chose him. Before we get into the individual matchups here, and I know we've been going deep and like big picture overview for just 40 minutes here, Anders? Yeah, about 40 minutes. There is a CCL spot at stake. That's the last thing I'll throw out here. If the MLS Cup winner is not LAFC, Philly, Orlando, or Montreal, they will get in. If one of those 4 teams win MLS Cup and Montreal can't get it this year, they would, I think, next year in the new formation of CCL, it will be Austin FC based on the Supporters Shield standings. So for Austin, win MLS Cup or have one of those other teams win MLS Cup, you will be going to CCL next year. So MLS Cup is at stake. Of course, our trophy draft at stake as well in that sense, but a CCL spot also up for grabs. Okay, let's go into the individual games. We'll get to Diego Fagundez here in a second, and then Stu Holden's going to join us to help us preview Monday's action on FS1. Start on Saturday, Red Bulls FC Cincinnati. As I said, noon Eastern, Unimas today in, as well as MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app. We will have a 30-minute pregame show as well as a postgame show after all the coverage on MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app. I believe it's myself, Charlie, Kalen, and Doyle. And then are you...
Red Bull, Susanna is at Galaxy.
Yes. Should be fun. Let's go big picture here. Is it house money for Cincy at this point? Like, they made the playoffs. 3 spoons, they're into the playoffs. Is it just like, whatever, we're happy with anything? We could lose this and we'd still call it a successful season. Or is there more that needs to be done, Dave?
Would FC Cincinnati's fans be happy on Monday if they were to lose about the season?
I think they would still overall be satisfied. I don't think they would be happy on Monday because they will have lost a playoff game.
I said about the season, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think so. They would be satisfied.
So
at the very, very least.
The reaction to the season would be a success if they lost, and there was no expectations that they'd be here. That, to me, is house money. Do they not think they can win? No. Should they win? Potentially. I think a lot of people are picking them. Is that a huge opportunity you don't want to let go? Yes. All of that is true. But to me, in terms of the power dynamic, the pressure dynamic, whatever you want to say, they are playing with house money because they are where they didn't expect to be, and they've had a good 2022 no matter what.
How do you think they'll approach this game, Charlie? At Red Bull Arena. 1-1 draws in the 2 previous meetings, 1 in July, 1 in August. In August, Miazga got the goal, and then Red Bulls came back. How does Cincy approach this game?
New York Red Bulls don't have the ability, in my opinion, to break you down in a low block. And typically that's why when they've played on the road, teams aren't looking to defend at home. They're going to be on the front foot. And that's why they've had so much success on the road. I think when they play at home, teams bunker in. And when they bunker in, that's allowed them to beat Red Bulls because they allow, so much freedom with their center backs. They'll mark 2v2 and there's so much space. Sometimes they'll leave 1v1s and everyone's flying forward because they're so committed to forcing you into a turnover in your defensive half and your defensive third. So they look to capitalize. So if I'm Cincinnati, I say, look, Vasquez, because he's very good at making moves, getting into open space. Lucho Acosta, not so much known for his defensive ability, but in transition, just being ready for his first touch to be forward. So Brenner playing off of Vasquez, and we're defending with 7, and those 3 are, I wouldn't say have no responsibility in terms of defending, but those are the 3 that we're attacking with. We're going to have a lot of 2v2s, 3v2s, 1v1s, and we're going to bet on our guys to create and score goals. So I would say we're going to look to defend in these condensed blocks and be in these great opportunities for transition, expose them on the counter, expose them when they lose possession, when they force these balls into the channels, when they're just whipping in crosses, be ready to capitalize once we regain possession. So I think Cincinnati has all the pieces to beat this Red Bulls team on the road.
So I agree with you, Charlie, that those 3, they can score against anyone. They don't need support. I don't know that Cincinnati can sit in a block and keep Red Bulls out. I mean, this is one of the worst defenses, and I get what you're saying. Yeah, they're worse in transition moments, and they're worse when the game's open than they are contained. But, I mean, Alvis Powell consistently getting attacked. Nick Haglund trying to cover for him, a rookie in Celentano.
Well, he won't have space in behind him. If Alvis Powell just keeps bombing forward, that's that big opening. That's that.
It doesn't matter. Alvis Powell could try and defend in 3 yards of space, and I don't think he could do it.
How many players on Red Bulls? How many players? Before anything, how many players that the Red Bulls have can beat you in 1v1
John Tolkien
situations?
and Lewis Morgan. The 2
John
guys
Tolkien.
on the left
John
side.
Tolkien's a 1v1 guy.
Yeah. Yes, Charlie. Guess what? Jesus Ferreira, the 3rd fastest player in MLS. Watch out. You don't want to step into this territory. I get what you're.
Who's the striker for Red Bulls, by the way?
That is totally fair. To me, this game comes down to finishing. Because
striker, though?
FC Cincinnati didn't do it against Chicago 2 weeks ago, and they lost on the chances they created. They did it against DC, and the Red Bulls will get chances. And I do not know that the finishers exist outside of Lewis Morgan. Elias Manuel clearly is going to be the starter for this game. Scored 2 goals on the weekend. That's the perfect way to go into this. I don't know that I can trust him in this moment. And I think that's been the Red Bull stories in the playoffs over the last few years. So that's a fair question mark. And I understand, but I would still say outside of that, this is a Red Bull team that is going to have confidence. Drew Yearwood's back, whether it's him or Frankie Amaya in central midfield. I think they can control that space. I think they can get the ball into dangerous areas. Kyle Duncan's been an upgrade since, Dylan Nealis being the starter early in the year. And they have one of the best back 3s plus goalkeepers in MLS to try and slow that Cincinnati attack. But it all comes down to finishing. And if Red Bulls can finish the opportunity, especially if they can go ahead, it changes the complexion of the game.
If I'm Cincy, I don't know if I go full sort of like, hey, we're going to sit back, force you to break us down. Because Red Bulls, I know, Red Bulls just can't complete passes.
Sit
but
park
like,
the bus.
straight up.
But I'm saying be a little bit more defensive-minded in this game, of course.
Red Bulls don't complete passes,
you
particularly in tight spaces under pressure. But if I'm Cincy, I just try to take my number one thing is I'm trying to take Lewis Morgan away. Like I'm trying to force him into positions where he has to get rid of the ball quickly and is not in the positions that he's been so successful for this team. And if he doesn't score, then you're like, okay, well, where's the miracle coming from? I know Elias Manuel had 2 goals last game, but that's not in character for him so far in MLS. That was the first time we've ever seen that. Then it's like, okay, well, then can Casares hit one outside the box? Can Amaya pull something out of his hat? Can we get something off a set piece? All those are possibilities. They're just not super high compared to the probability that those 3 attacking players for Cincy are going to get it done in this moment. I think it's going to be a lot tighter game than it might seem. It kind of feels like, oh, wow, this is going to be a crazy one, like 5-2, 5-3, 3-2. I don't think so. I think you're looking at a pretty tight game in the end. But Dave, I agree with you on the finishing. I think if you had to pick who's going to finish in these big moments, I pick Cincinnati. That's why I have them going through. They're also basically the same team home and away. They don't really change who they are. So I don't think they'll fully like pack it in. And I agree with you, Charlie. There's times to do that, but I think they get it done. Anybody picking Red Bulls? Or are we all picking Cincy? Dave, it sounds like you maybe picked Red Bulls.
No, I picked FC Cincinnati.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I picked
That's
the
going
front
against
three.
the grain. Okay.
Well, welcome to the ETR Jinx, FC Cincinnati.
If you don't think that John Tolkien, who was megging Barcelona players this summer, is going to get past Alvis Powell, and you think Alvaro Barreal is going to be a defensive stalwart at left wing back, you, my friend, are out of your mind.
Okay.
All right, let's talk Galaxy Nashville. 3 p.m. Eastern, Univision, 2 to MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app. Again, you can watch in English live on MLS Soccer and the MLS app, and we have a pregame and postgame show for you. Should be a really good time. I believe we have shows in between as well, so we'll bridge you between the games. So come tune in, hang out with us. It should be really fun.
Oh yeah.
So this is a series where Nashville drew in September at home against LA, and LA won in April. So kind of throw that one out, 1-0 against Nashville during their road trip.
Let's bring in a little extra context. That Galaxy game in Nashville was the one that Chicharito missed the second week straight penalty after the SKC game, and then Ricky Puig scored, I believe, in stoppage time to tie it. The Galaxy in Nashville had 70% possession, if I recall correctly, in that game. They could break a playoff record in this one at home with the way their form has gone in terms of knowing their style more, plus being a home team in the postseason and Nashville not wanting it. They could break that possession record.
So the only two that picked Galaxy to go on among the quote-unquote MLSsoccer.com experts, you're looking at them, Charlie. It's Dave and I.
Who would have thought? Look at us.
Look at us.
Yeah,
Look
incredible.
At
us. This one
tell
goes
me why
out
Nashville.
to all
Tell me why
Nashville
Nashville
fans,
wins.
Mike Jacobs, all the players who, in the past, I've been ultra critical against Nashville when they had no.
Charlie outing himself real quick.
I'm not outing anything. This is known, and I've been honest. I've been transparent. They had no willingness to move forward and attack. It was like they're allergic to possession. That was Nashville once upon a time. Then Hany Mukhtar started to come alive and really develop into just an absolute force. I think that this Nashville team is finally figured out ways to be effective in possession. And I think Alistair Johnson, when they lost him, that was a big loss. I don't think they necessarily anticipated how much of a loss he would be. The importance that he played in transition and counterattacks and providing with just somebody you could depend on. He's so consistent. And Montreal gained that. And you've seen what he's been able to do at Montreal. I think it took them a while to figure things out. Teal Bunbury, who's just starting to get opportunities now that he's healthy, it works on both sides of the ball. He's dependable. He's one of those locker room guys that numbers can't account for, and that's why when we talk about statistics, you can't measure the level of accountability, the level of effort and energy that one gives to a team in the locker room, the things he says, how he empowers players, how he can get the most out of everyone on the pitch. He does that with this Nashville team. You can see it. He can also score goals when needed. He's done it in the playoffs before. I think he's going to be important with Nashville. So I think as long as Walker Zimmerman can be good in possession and with his decision making, because I think over the past 6 weeks he has not been himself. He hasn't looked like the Walker Zimmerman when he finally got his national team opportunity and was starting to ball. He gives the ball away too cheaply. Sometimes he's overconfident in the way he tries to intercept balls. I think he takes too many risks in possession. If no one's pressuring him, he's giving the ball away, and that's transition with the national team. He has to be on. And if he is on, and we've seen Joe Willis come up with some massive performances as of late, this team will beat the Galaxy. And I think Nashville gets over the hump, and it's all because of the spine and how they approach these games.
Why'd you pick the Galaxy, Dave?
Because they know who they are now. And under Greg Vanney, they've always been trying to be someone they weren't. Greg Vanney has big ideas about the way he wants the game to be played. He hasn't always had the personnel. And then in a way of trying to overcorrect and fix things, I think they were lost for a while. And they didn't have fundamentals and tenets that they brought to the game. It was just, well, we're the LA Galaxy and we expect to win. That's no longer true. And it's not just Pooch, it's also Brugman. And both of them fitting in. They dominate possession. They dominate it in the areas that are safe for them to turn it over. And they have a player in Puig who, it's not just that he can unlock a defense. The thing that stands out to me is he's always an option because he can take the ball in any spot, surrounded by anyone, and not lose it for you. So now when you have issues, if you make mistakes, if you're under pressure, especially that back line, you have an outlet that's not just the ball over the top or a ball straight out. You play it into his feet and he will problem solve for you. And Chicharito has learned to play off him. Weirdly, by the way, one of those guys who could pop up, Douglas Costa might be one of those who he scores a goal or two. The conversation around him shifts. We've seen it happen to DPs in the past, right? Some guys leaving, like Nelson Valdez or Claudio Biello, where they were out the door, but they had a decent playoff run. And sometimes it keeps guys in their team and changes their careers for them. But this is a Galaxy team, I think, that's playing high-level soccer. They have the best record in the West pretty much since Ricky Puig arrived, and they've gotten better since that last time they played Nashville, and they have an elite goal scorer in Chicharito. The one thing I'd say, as Charlie mentioned, Teal Bunbury, he changes things. He doesn't just change things because of all the things Charlie talked about, which are all true. He can score other types of goals. CJ Sapong and Ethan Zubak and all the other pieces, they can score one goal, right? They can get on the end of things that are played for them. Teal Bunbury can create his own shot. He can create for Hani Mukhtar if he has to, and he can score from outside the box. So it adds more elements to this team than what they've had.
I think he's just the threat in behind is something they didn't have either, and that just creates more space for Hani and for those wingers.
Like a Jesus Ferreira type.
Yeah, maybe
Oh,
a stretch.
but
I don't know.
before-
I don't know what his top speed on the field is, like average speed or like sprint speed. But we could go look that up.
Yeah, I'm also gonna throw this out there because I've been thinking about this now. This message is for Alvis Powell. So everybody in Cincinnati, please send this to him, okay? Take no stick, brethren. Okay, reggae boys, you don't know. Bless up. I'm out.
Okay, that
Okay.
was worth the wait.
It
Definitely
was.
worth the wait. I
Alright.
appreciate that. One of the best tropes on a Thursday show is Charlie sitting on something that was said 20 minutes ago and be like, I cannot allow that to stand.
I can't.
I must come back. I will say that it seems like the Martin Caceres move was a really smart one for the Galaxy, even as just a short-term rental, just to see like, hey, could this improve even just organizationally what we're able to do on the back line. But I agree with you, Dave. Douglas Costa, Grandsire, like Cabral, like they want to get something out of those other guys, but they've been getting so much out of Puig and Chicharito that they might not even need it. I will also say this team gets in great positions to earn PKs. They just haven't made them. Maybe that changes in the playoffs, but I just think that this midfield, the way that they've changed sort of those transition moments, is really, really the key to their season. They don't get stuck in transition nearly as much. Nashville are absolutely deadly in transition with Hani, but I still have Galaxy going on. Look, I will just say this for Nashville. If they don't move on, it's a bummer. It doesn't mean the season's over. It does mean you got to find help for Hani. And I think you also got to find some more youth in the midfield, in addition to Sean Davis, to help the sort of transition of the guard whenever that comes, whether it's next year or the year after. Sunday, Austin, RSL. Yeah, you're right, Anders. It does mean the season.
He
is
said
over.
it, and I was like, I'm not going to interrupt.
Yeah, Anders, you're right. This is where we need Anders in the live chat on the bottom of the screen, just correcting us.
His correction
Sunday,
was the
Austin,
season is
RSL,
over.
3 p.m. Eastern, ABC, ESPN, Deportes. Big ABC game here. It's going to be awesome at Q2. Like, tune into this game. It should just be a really fun time. It's Austin's debut in the playoffs, obviously. The season series here, RSL won at home 2-1, and then Austin won 3-0 in September with RSL in town. Do you trust the Verde and Black? I feel like this is a bad matchup for Austin in the 7 seed because I think RSL will be happy to sort of let them have possession, try to draw them upfield, and then be super direct and try to hit on the counter.
He just threw it out into the thin air. He just said,
yeah.
I want
Tossed it
whoever's
out.
ready
I hope
just attack
everyone
this.
listening at home and on their own, they started answering, because
Yeah.
that's what this
You
show's
gave
about. It's about
you
being
gave them the
collaborative.
space to do so. I appreciate that from you guys.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand your take. I think that's a common one when you talk about RSL. I don't think they see
Oh
possession
boy.
as much as you're saying, and I also think for them to create, they need their fullbacks to be a part of the attack, and for the fullbacks to get there, they have to be playing up a little bit higher. Especially Andrew Brody, like he's their outlet, he's their creative force. So I don't know that it's an ideal matchup for RSL, but if you're talking to me about weaknesses with Austin, it's goal scoring from the center forward position. It's big time mistakes at center back, not often, but when they happen, they're big. But it's also fullback, right? John Gallagher has been awesome, but a lot of that's going in one direction. And whether it's Lima or Jimenez on the other side, that's also more quality going forward than defending. So there is space for a Savarino, a Chang, a Miram off the bench, a Brody, I think, to create chances there. But yeah, I just, Austin play their game almost as well as anyone has played it in MLS for years. I don't see them losing at home to a 7 seed.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go with that's why I think when they beat Austin RSL, they lose to Dallas because of those exact reasons.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else from this game before we get to Diego? Any sort of anything to clean up? How about RSL? Could they, is there a miracle here for them as well? Are we under?
No, there's a miracle for everybody. We know
Yeah.
it's the playoffs.
I mean, they
Anything
did
can
it last
happen.
year, right? Like they've already proven they can do it, but they don't have Carlock this time, which I think is a big loss. And McMath's been good, but Ochoa was special last year in like the we're gonna win with him at the back type of way. It doesn't change the fact that, Sergio Cordova scored some big goals for them over the last few weeks, right? Ruiz, I think, is good. Like all these guys, there's players capable of being match winners on the field for RSL.
All right, let's talk to Diego Fagundez. It's an AT&T 5G call to the field. To Austin we go. All right, it's an AT&T 5G call to the field. To Diego Fagundez we go. Austin, 2 seed in these Audi 2022 MLS Cup playoffs at Q2, hosting RSL. A huge game in the club's history. Diego Fagundez, a huge player in the short history of this club. Diego, welcome to Extra Time, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, let's start before we hit playoffs. I just want to start you on Austin because I think for people like me who remember the teenage years in New England and the homegrown status and everything you sort of represented at that time, like that's been a decade. Things have changed. Your life has changed. Tell me about Austin. Tell me about who you are these days, how you've changed since those early days when we were introduced to you in MLS.
No, I think a lot of people thought my career was over. And Austin just gave me another leap, another confidence boost. And me coming here was probably one of the best decisions to do between Claudio and Josh. They brought me here for a reason. And all I can do is just keep trying to be better. And I think everybody's seeing how good of a year I'm having. And it's still not over. There's still a lot more from me. And playoffs, I think, is a huge part of it.
How deep do your roots go in Austin now? Like, how connected are you with the city? Is this a place you want to be long term?
Yeah, I think I feel like home here. It's something that I built a house here for a reason, and hopefully I stay here long term. But we all know how professional athletes' careers are. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years. Who knows? No one really knows. So I just need to do my best to keep having fun, keep scoring goals, keep assisting. And at the end of the day, everything will work out itself.
So I have to ask you, just out of curiosity, what was the one thing in the house build that was just for Diego? The treat for yourself. You were like, okay, should I do this? Should I not do it? I'm doing it. I'm making it the way I want to make it. What was that thing?
Definitely my gaming room, where I play video games, stream, and just have fun and focus on other things besides soccer. I think that's my one place where I can get away and not really think about being on the field or being distracted on other things. I can just go and be young and have fun with my friends and just be in a different world.
What's that room look like? How did you make it? How is it? What's the specs here?
Well, first you should probably check me out on Twitch, but other than that,
There you go. Hey, come on, promote yourself. Promote yourself, Diego.
You can check me out on Twitch and stuff. But no, it's just a black room, a lot of paintings of Austin and New England, just jerseys hung, lights, just make it to myself, and a couple monitors, some PCs in there, and we have fun with friends.
Get down and grind a little bit, huh? What's life like as a professional athlete, as a Austin FC player in Austin? We always are curious. You always hear this sort of like, oh man, you can't even go to the butcher shop. And like, I don't know that many people that actually go to the butcher shop on a regular basis, but like, do you get recognized? Do you feel like a star?
It's crazy, actually. Since I've moved here, I feel like everywhere I go, no matter if I'm wearing a hat or not, people recognize, and I think that's something special because I'm not the only one. I think uh, actually appreciate us as I think who goes out gets seen, and they get noticed.
So let's talk. Let's talk about this team. I have a T-shirt here in my office that a fan made that I think has Felipe on it, and it's like, keep doubting us, basically. And look, I've had fun with the Austin fans this year. It's been great banter. Where does this and how deep does this sort of like doubt us now feeling and culture go into your squad? Do you guys really feel like the world outside doesn't believe in you? Like, how deep does this go?
To be honest, there could be players that pay attention to that. In my mind, we just want to go out there and have fun and play, and I think everybody can keep talking. And at the end of the day, we know what kind of team we are and how good of a team we are. We're here for a reason. We're number 2 for a reason. We beat some of the best teams for a reason. So all we can do is just keep showing up to games, keep proving everybody who doesn't believe in us, and the true fans will keep supporting us all the way.
Tell me about the difference between last year and this year. Last year I think that the principles that Josh wanted to instill in this team were pretty clear, but the results weren't what you wanted. This year those principles are even clearer, but the results have changed. How do you make that transition as a team?
I think the one part that we were better at, winning away from home, especially last year. Like starting 8 games on the road is hard for any team, and for us, we were a brand new team, brand new players. It was tough for us to get to know each other, have chemistry, and I think that's what changed this year. Bringing in a couple of new faces, and knowing what kind of team we wanted to be and how we wanted to be, and just adding those thing was a huge step. And then you bring quality players in, and the team, of course, gets better. Um, and that's what we're doing this year. At the end of the day, we're still not done. There's still a lot more that we can learn from, but we definitely sticking together. And like I said, we let everybody else talk outside, and we just do what we were supposed to do.
What are you supposed to do? For those that, maybe are intimately familiar with how Austin play, with what Josh wants from you, when they tune into ABC on Sunday, what are they going to see? Describe to me what this team is all about.
To be honest, playoffs is different. I think all year we've been playing good soccer and stuff, and I think it's going to be a whole different game on Sunday. Like you said, I think playoffs is one of the toughest parts. It's one game and you're done. So to be prepared, everybody needs to come with a battle and fight, because it won't be easy. It's going to be one of those games. It might be an ugly game, and whoever wants it more the game. So for us, we just need to be focused. We're at home, a crowd and energy and stuff, so we know what kind of game plan we want to come to, and everybody else will keep bringing the energy, and we're just gonna have to make sure we score.
Long story short, Diego's not giving you any hints, RSL, as to what is going to come in this match. What do you think about that matchup? RSL, the team that last year got to the conference final and got off to a start and won without even taking a shot. Like, there's some magic in what they've been able to do in the postseason. What did you think when you saw across from Austin, RSL?
So yeah, to be honest, we knew we were going to play a hard team. It didn't matter if it was Real Salt Lake or anybody else. And it wasn't easy. So at the end of the day, we just have to come with a fight and the want. And if we do that and we can score goals, and we're solid defensively and we stick together, we can win a game. But like I said, it's going to be tough, no matter what kind of game it is and who it's against.
So the magic in this team most often comes from you and Sebastian. What tell me about Sebastian Driussi, about playing with him, about the connection that you guys have. Why does this click so well?
No, I think we make each other better. Doesn't matter if it's him or me. Someone we try to look for each other. We're trying to play close to each other, and I think that's what's helping. At the end of the day, I think we're both enjoying ourselves, having fun, and we want to win. But we have a lot of good talent all over this team, not just us two. A lot of people make other plays happen, and this is why we're able to score goals. And this is where we need to have more people step up and show that they want to be here. Sometimes it's going to be one of those players that they're not expected to score, and they're the ones that are going to score in these playoff games. Like I said, it takes 11 guys to defend, and it's going to take 16, 17, 18 guys to be ready for this game. There's always overtime. There's always PKs. So everybody needs to be prepared. And if you get your name called, just be ready to play.
Look, I respect the collective, but at the same time, Sebastian Driussi might just be the MVP of this league. In your opinion, should he be MVP, and why would he be MVP in your mind?
In my mind, I think he is the MVP of this league. He makes other players around him better. And at the schedule and the teams that we played and the teams that we won at home and the stuff that we were able to do, I think shows. I think overall, if you look at numbers and stuff, he's proving people what he can do. And we were actually talking, if you take all these PKs or hat tricks and games that are win by 6 or 5-0, then at the end of the day, he would have so many more goals so than other people. And that's what we see. And we know what kind of player he is. And like I said, in our team, in our organization, we know who the real MVP, and we think it's him. At the end of the day, we're not the ones who decide. So we're just going to make sure that we can make it far and people can talk.
Diego, I got to ask you, you said people may have doubted you. You felt like people thought maybe your career was over. And like 2019 and 2020 were rough years, no doubt about it. Just playing time, production, difficult seasons. Where were you at the end of that 2020 season? And what has Austin sort of represented to you and your career as a whole, this fresh start that you've grabbed with both hands and taken advantage of?
No, to be honest, for me, I felt like it was a fresh start for me. Austin, I remember coming in here and I said, this is where I need to prove to everybody that I still have a lot more in my system, and that's what I'm doing. Like I said, I try to compete with the best and do everything I can. And this year, my goal was trying to get Lucho Acosta in assists, and I wasn't able to, but I still feel confident in what I've accomplished. And like I said, I think making it to playoffs was definitely a step, and that's what I wanted to do. And this is our chance to prove to people how good of a team we are and how good of a player I can be. And then at the end of the day, it's going to be up to Austin to decide what they do.
Tell me what Q2 is like on a big game. What's it going to be like on Sunday?
No, Q2 is unbelievable. I think we experienced it a little bit at LAFC coming here, and the atmosphere was insane. To be honest, I don't know how it can get any better than that, but I can't wait for Sunday, 2 p.m. and I think everybody will be ready. The whole city will explode. The fan base will explode, and the energy will definitely be amazing. And I can't wait to be playing in that.
3 p.m. Sunday, ABC, Austin, RSL at Q2. Can the Verde and Black get the job done? Diego Fagundez will be a big part of it. Diego, thank you so much for your time, man. Good luck.
Hey, thank you to you guys. I appreciate everything.
Big thanks to Diego. Pleasure to have him on. I still think my homegrown of the year, just based on what he's done and sort of the resurgence in his career, really hitting the heights that we expected from him all the way back when he was 17-year-old with the Revs. Okay, let's talk about the other game on Sunday. This one, 8 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Deportes. We'll have a post-game show afterwards on MLS Soccer, MLSsoccer.com, and MLS app. I believe also YouTube Live and Twitch. Orlando won the first matchup between Montreal and Orlando, 2-0 in Orlando. Then Montreal laid it on them 4-1 in May. So not a ton of recent.
And that first matchup was the first game of the season, and it was 3 days after Montreal beat Santos Laguna in CCL.
Good context. Good context right there.
AKA, it's irrelevant.
Yes. Joshua Cloak had a wonderful piece on CF Montreal at The Athletic. I always enjoy what they put out, the reporting, the commentary. Go check it out. Montreal, we said, is a darling here for neutrals. Here's a quote from Wilfred Nancy in that piece. I came to Montreal with my backpack in 2005. I have my conviction, and I try to transmit that to my players. to be brave, to be bold, to enjoy what we do, and to entertain, because this is our job, to entertain people. We'll run through a wall right now. We'll flip this table for you, Wilfred. You are my coach of the year. I love you. I need you to go win MLS Cup for for everyone out there to see your quality, because he's got a contract option that has not been triggered. They should re-sign him long term, but also so that I can win the bracket challenge. Let's go, Montreal. This is your time. This is such an awesome project, Dave, and I'll pimp MLS Today real quick for you. I guess you and Suze had like 25 minutes celebrating Montreal, but
big.
this year has been awesome. It's as good as it's ever been, I think, in Montreal, even with Piatti, even with Drogba.
Yeah, well, they never had a
hype.
regular season. All those teams made playoff runs from low seeds, and I can tell you as a Mets fan this year, playoff runs as low seeds is great, but enjoyment over the course of 8-9 months of watching your team play is a different feeling, and that's what we're seeing from Montreal. On top of that, Nancy quote, Renard was sort of quoted as basically saying, I care more about playing good soccer than winning trophies. And I think they're not disassociated, right? One comes with the other, but that's what they've given their fans over the course of this time. And because of doing that, and because of like having those fundamentals locked in, they've reacted to a lot of really tough situations. They lost, I think, the MLS MVP frontrunner for 2 months, and their form only got better. They've lost Romel Kyoto now for a month. He's their leading goal scorer, and we haven't had to talk about it because Kai and Mason Toy have stepped up. So I think it's the culture of this team, and it's why in a playoff run where we saw what happened to Philly last year, we've seen big injuries for teams. So a guy's missing late on, gets hurt in warmups, all those things. This feels like a team that's going to be able to react.
Yeah, Romel Kyoto is not one we've talked about a ton. He got hurt with Honduras during the international break. Thigh injury, huge part of what they've done. And again, it goes back to sort of the team ethos that other guys have stepped in, but he is their most dangerous forward. So that's definitely something to watch, Charlie. What do you make of this moment for Orlando City? Because look, Montreal want to control games with the ball. They want to draw you into instances where you think, oh, I can win this. I can put pressure on the ball. And then you get stretched out and they're able to play through you and have these moments where, guys have to be brave on the ball. I don't think Orlando City is going to stretch themselves. I think they're going to be very comfortable saying, hey, cool, we're not going to fall for that. Like, we are actually, unlike Cincy, going to be in a true block for large portions of this game, have the ball. We'll bet on ourselves in some high leverage moments to make the difference. What do you think of Orlando's chances in this one?
They have a decent chance. They're going to defend. I mean, it's a success. It's a super successful season for them. They're in the playoffs. They won US Open Cup. This is all extra credit. If they were to crash out and they lose 3-0, 4-0, it's still a success. Oscar's going to come in and say, yeah, this wasn't a great performance. We all are professionals. We've done this for a long time. We know it. But I am so proud of this team because we won US Open Cup. We've dealt with a number of injuries this year. We haven't been at our best, but we got into the playoffs. Like we're moving in the right direction as a club. That for me is success. So they're not playing with pressure. That will be a benefit in this match. Having to just defend with no pressure, no expectations, and just go after it when you can. You hope that there's an opening. We've seen them at times, whether it's a set piece, whether it's a counterattack, them just get those into those areas and they score that goal. Then they just have to be really resolute when they defend.
Yeah, I agree with Charlie. And I do think the mental side of the game is going to be huge. Orlando's been here before where Montreal hasn't. Remember decision day last year as well, head to head. Just back to the neutral thing from before. I want to close off my point 40 minutes later about why Montreal's your one. Here's the quote, and I want to get it right from the Athletic piece by Josh. Quote, I'm not looking to win MLS Cup, said Renard. That's not my first goal. My first goal is to play good football that the fans are happy about. And I know that you need to dream for something, but for me, my dream is to have a good team that fans enjoy on the field. And if you don't have that, maybe you will. If you do have that, maybe you will win something. What else do you want as a neutral?
Shots fired.
What else do you want as a neutral? And I knew Charlie would hate that quote. That was my final attempt.
I mean, what they've built is absolutely beautiful. I'll go back to Nancy. They really need to exercise that option and extend him, and I think they will. But this truly is. This might be like this might not the last chance, but one of the best chances they have to make this history. Look, Wanyama is not coming back. We know that. Georgie is not. You look at guys that have a an option for next year. Kai has an option. Sampiet, Romel Kyoto, Joel Waterman, Ismail Kone, Kamal Miller all have options, but not long-term contracts. You might lose maybe Kamal and Alistair, depending on the World Cup. You're definitely going to lose, I think, Ismail Kone. I mean, who knows? Like this could be their big chance here with this core, with this group. You got to take advantage of it. And I think that their culture within the team is a real advantage. And we've seen that be the case before. You just look at RSL last year, what that culture did for them. Montreal won't be underdogs, but they'll have something a little bit different to call upon in these tight moments. They've been great on the road. They've been good at home. I am rooting for Montreal, absolutely, as a neutral. Thanks to you, Dave. You've really convinced me over the course of this show. Should be a good time. All right, let's talk more about Sunday. And to do that, we will chat with Stu Holden in New York City. It's an AT&T 5G call to the field. It's an AT&T 5G call to the field. To New York City we go. Fox Sports, Stu Holden. What's up, Stu?
Man, I'm in New York, East Coast this time. You know, I got out of the friendly confines of the West Coast, and we got some rain here in New York. And yesterday, or 2 days ago, I saw my good friend Charlie Davies in Boston.
It all blends together. It's just globetrotting right now. Where you are, we don't know. It's not under a staircase, which is where you were decision day when you jumped onto us, the live show. But I just noticed we can put you wherever we want. Stu, you got a green wall behind you. We're going to green screen you. We'll have Andres work on
Can you send me to a beach in Turks and Caicos or something like that? Like
we could just send you to Mallorca. That could be a decent spot to go, right?
That I would do.
Yeah, not bad at all. Obviously, we're talking MLS Cup playoffs. We're talking Monday. FS1 has 2 games in the first round on Monday night. NYCFC enter Miami at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then you're calling the FC Dallas Minnesota United match at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Both on FS1. All the coverage there. Once you guys go off the air, we will have a post-game show as well on MLS channels, YouTube, and Twitch. Which game are you calling? Which game are you more excited for, Stu? Let's start there.
By the way, it's become one of my favorite routines now. Like when I jump in the car after a game, I hop on and listen to you guys. Sometimes Charlie invites me in the room. I roast him a little bit, then I head on my way. But it's fun. Like it's a nice post game recap to have that. So I'm doing the Minnesota Dallas match, which I find a very fascinating game because I just think that this FC Dallas team have kind of, I don't know, they've snuck under the radar a little bit, right? Like first year coach and Estevez, and the way in which this team, very heavy American influence, very young team, some guys that you could expect to see at the World Cup as well with the United States. And then Minnesota, like Charlie, I remember, I think I did a Minnesota game middle of the year. I hopped on with you. I remember listening to you, and you were like almost giving apologies for how you'd been hard on Minnesota at the beginning and how they'd surprised you. And then they fell off a cliff. Mm-hmm. They barely sneak into the playoffs on the last day by beating Vancouver. And I don't know what to expect from this team in the playoffs. Like, they have talented players. Like Reynoso is one of the best attacking players in this league. They're banged up at the back. There's still questions in the midfield. And so I think that Dallas's game is Dallas's game to win. Dallas have one of the second, I think it was the second best, if not up there in the top 5 defenses in the league, which is kind of a surprising stat when I was digging in as part of the research for this game. And then it's a fun team to watch. Areola, what a season he's had. Jesus Ferreira, the amount of goals he's had. Sebastian Lletget looks like he's starting to finally figure out the way in which he's going to fit as part of this team. So I think this is Dallas's game to lose. I think Dallas win at home. And I think ultimately it ends up being a not successful season for Minnesota, even though they make the playoffs. This is a team that has higher expectations than that.
Thank you. Somebody's been
man.
Listening. Hey, the tradition of your post games, hitting in the car, getting on MLS extra time. After
we didn't
dark
pay him, by the way, folks.
Hey,
there was no money exchanged hands in this transaction.
I'm curious, Stu. For me, the New York City FC Miami game is probably going to be the one with a little bit more action. Where do you see this game going?
Yeah, this is why I love the playoffs, though, right? Like I'm scratching my head thinking about now how in a one-off game, like these are, you lose, you're done. And I love the switch a couple of years ago to this single elimination format because like New York City, defending champions, lose their star striker. Castellanos goes to Spain. Ronnie Dyla leaves. Cushing comes in, struggles for a long period there. They struggle to score goals. It seems like they've kind of figured it out down the stretch a little bit. Getting Keaton Parks healthy has been really important for them. Talis Magnos scoring goals. And then Miami, like what a story Miami is. They didn't win a game in their first 5. Phil Neville benches Higuain. They look like the wheels are falling off the bus again and just ready to write them off. And then they've just hit fire down the end of the year. That's why I think Miami's going to win this game. I do. I think that Miami going to New York, not playing at Yankee Stadium where they're a very good team and the small field and the challenges that presents. They're going to play at Citi Field. And look, Miami come in, I think, with nothing to lose. Like the pressure's on New York City. They're the defending champs. Miami second time in the playoffs. We call it their first. The first year didn't really count, right? I mean, everybody made the playoffs that year. But like this Miami team, I think is fun to watch. They're organized. They're hot. They're confident. Higuain's last couple of games potentially as a professional. And so I'm going to pick Phil Neville's team to go on the road and knock off New York City.
Oh, wow. Going to Citi Field, which they were not happy about.
No.
By the way, they did not like that. Jorge Moss.
Did Phil let that known? Yeah.
Jorge Moss tweeting about it. Phil being like, what the hell is this? Of course, he also said, hey, we'd play at Central Park if it came down to that, and fair enough.
But Weeby, don't you feel like this is a little bit of mind games, though, right? Too, like
yeah, but they should have expected it.
Once
you saw the Mets were out, you have to know that they're gonna not play at their rival's stadium.
Yeah, but why not make a stink about it? Like, I love it. Like, make a stink, give your team a little bit of added motivation. Like, make it about everything but what's on the field, and yeah, I think
I like I'm a narrative guy, so any sort of spicy quote I'm always down for. Of course, that's why we get into the show. We're like, they're pissed about Citi Field. Like, what's that all about? But the flip side, let's go positive on Miami. You sort of mentioned it there. Phil Neville said recently that nobody outside of their building believed in them at the start of the year, and that is absolutely true. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that, absolutely fair reasons, given all the things that had happened in the offseason, their DP situation, what was going on with Higuain. Would he be the striker we saw at the end of this year? I mean, nobody had seen that. Nobody thought it was coming. Could Phil Neville get this out of this roster, given the limitations that they had imposed by themselves and their own actions, of course? But what do you see when you look at the job that Chris Henderson and Phil Neville have done?
Yeah, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but they changed 80% of their roster, I think, in the offseason. That's a lot of players. That's a lot when you talk about a new sporting director and Chris Henderson, and then for Phil Neville as a coach, you're trying to piece all these different guys together. And I think that's why at the start of the season you saw it go the way that it did. What I would say is, and what I felt like was kind of the turning point is, you bench Higuain. Higuain was like the first 5 games. Those clips were going viral. He's like strolling around the field. He gives the ball away. He walks back. Like he didn't care. And I just don't think he was bought in or motivated to perform at a high level. So he benched him. Campana starts playing. And you see a team that was then playing a little bit more aggressive. They're pressing higher up the field. They're playing with a higher temper because now they have 11 players defending as a team, setting the as Charlie knows how important setting the press and the intensity from the beginning, from the front of the field all the way to the back. And so like that was kind of a significant change. And then this, like the thing that stands out to me the most is the amount of late goals that they have scored, the amount of late games that they've won when they've been down, they've been out. And a team that I would say collectively believes in themselves, that's a sign of a locker room like that, like a team that doesn't quit no matter what and keeps going to the end. And all those points ended up mattering because it came down all the way to the end of the season as we'd expected. So that's why I think that Miami are dangerous in the playoffs, because there's a collective belief. There's a like us against the world. Nobody cared at us. Nobody believed in us. We've already checked off that box. Now, like, let's go kick everybody's butt in the playoffs and, win MLS Cup.
Well, I'm going to have to come at you now because, yes, Miami are on a roll, but they get smacked up by Montreal to finish the year. Okay.
Okay. Montreal pretty good, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No one's taking it. No one's saying that.
Emotional hangover, Chuck.
Okay.
Emotional hangover.
Okay, fine. Now, New York City FC, since the Campeones Cup final, 8 goals for, only 2 against. And the man who I find responsible for this turnaround is Alexander Collins.
Collins is a beast.
He is absolutely balling and playing in a left back position, but we know how he can get forward. He's shown that, scoring, 3 out of the last 4 games for them in all competitions, but also just his ability to defend and help this team. And now Keaton Parks is getting back involved. You've seen how Santi Rodriguez, Gabi Pereira have been playing with Tylus Magno. I just feel that this team is now moving in that direction of, hey, let's repeat. We can. So how do you see Miami dealing with this New York City FC team now who's full of confidence and hasn't lost since September 14th.
AKA,
Yeah,
why are you a hater on the blue side of New York?
Yeah,
Joe?
he's
Why are you a
he's
that's
hater?
what he's trying to
You're
say.
in New York right now, and you hating.
Well, we know how hard it is to repeat as MLS Cup champs. There's only a couple of teams that have done it in the past. You know,
I was waiting for that. I've been waiting for that.
Oh yeah, those were change teams. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a Dynamo team that did it in 06 and 07. That's right. But I just still think like New York City. I know they've scored goals collectively, but Castellanos was the guy, right? Like Castellanos was the X factor, and I still think that Miami still have an X factor guy in Higuain. Look, at his age, I don't care. Like this is a guy that would love to go out on a nice note in his career. So, Charlie, I don't doubt that New York City are the favorites. I'm not saying that they're not. I just think that Miami have like a reckless abandonment and an ability to go in and be like spoil the party. I think that's the role that they've played all year long. And like when I'm going through the MLS Cup picks and I'm picking my bracket and all that, it's pretty easy to make a case for the favorite in every single matchup. But we all know it never works that way. Like it never happens. So I'm trying to think of games and scenarios which I think could turn that tide. And that's where I don't know, it feels to me like that Miami game, they came off such the high. There was so much pressure when they went to Toronto and they won that game. Like I don't worry so much that they got smacked by a Montreal team who, by the way, could make a run to Cup as well.
Let me ask you this before we turn the page to Dallas and Minnesota. Tyus Magno had to leave early on decision day. It looked like an ugly injury, like maybe shoulder separation. I haven't seen any more updates on him. Alejandro Pozuelo's been sort of, will he, won't he? And he didn't on decision day, but maybe they're just resting him. If Tyus Magno can't go or if Pozuelo can't go, which would be the bigger loss for their respective team?
I think Pozuelo. I would say Pozuelo because like Miami made that move mid-season. They went out. They got Pozuelo. Like he's a DP guy. He's a difference maker. And I just think that they don't have enough of like those guys at the high quality level and the depth below that. And that was a move that I would look at Chris Henderson and say like that was a big one. They went out and committed to going and get Pozuelo. So I would say Pozuelo. I think Talles Magno's had a good season. He would be a big loss with his verticality, his speed, his ability to get in the box and score goals. But I would say Pozuelo.
All right, we're the national people. We should be setting narratives. Why haven't we given Dallas enough credit? They're the third seed in the West. Like, how did we lose track of this? Like, I'll raise my hand. It's sort of been a season where when Arriola was hot, we were all over that. When Ferreira was hot and into the national team, like, rah, FC Dallas. Of course, Matt Doyle and Paxton Pomykal have had their moments this season.
Doyle does have a love fest with Pomykal.
There is a deep affinity.
Yeah.
I would say
a Bulbacy, and Paxton.
And Paxton.
we could go on and on that list, certainly. But what is it about this Dallas team? Like, why haven't they got the credit?
John Strong reminded me in the prep to this game that we haven't done a Dallas game since 2020, and on the national Fox network, at least the two of us. And so we were looking back and thinking about that game. And I think that was when they went on the road to Seattle in the playoffs. Crazy, wild game. And this Dallas team always seemed to get to the playoffs and then fall short. I think the difference here is that they have the home game. And yeah, this team has flown under the radar a little bit. I think that for a first-year coach to surpass expectations in the way in which he has, and this team playing with such a clear style and identity. I remember Luchi Gonzalez played with Ferreira wide as like a right winger. And then, he scored 2 goals that season in 2020. Now he's playing as a striker. The guy's almost scored 20 goals in MLS. So he's putting guys in the right spots. And I just think it's, again, a team that's playing with confidence, free flowing. They understand each other. They understand the system. And at home, there's pressure there against a talented Minnesota team, but this is a team that I think Dallas that is a better team.
I agree. I mean, ever since they went out and got Leggett in the midfield, he's been able to really support Ferreira and Arriola, and now he's starting to score goals. This team is definitely different, and the defense has always been strong for FC Dallas. Playing at home, I don't see how Minnesota could win this game without Davies, without a back line that's just going to be resilient. How does Minnesota win if that were to be the case?
Yeah, I think it's counterattacking, stuff up Dallas, possess the ball in the midfield, and then you have to have Reynoso playing lights out. You have to have Will Trapp playing lights out in the middle of the field. Kervin Arriaga, all these guys. Like I just think everybody has to execute at such a high level for Minnesota to win. And defensively has been the issue. Like I know when Davies went down, and the injuries that they've had, the suspensions that they've had, it's disrupted the flow of this team. They don't have a lot of depth But I think when Minnesota are healthy and good and confident, they can win games. They're a really good team.
All right, let's
Guys,
get you
I
out of
gotta
here.
text you. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Couldn't even get his picks.
Okay.
God.
Get your picks.
Love you guys. I'm getting dragged out.
All right, drag him
God.
out.
Dang.
Get the hook.
LAFC Philly in the final, and my dark horse is Nashville SC. Let's go.
Wow, there we go. There we go. He got the crook like you see on stage. Just yank him off. He's trying to perform here, folks. Big thanks to Stu Holden, coming to us live from
Thanks,
New York City.
Krista.
All right, Dave, need to get your thoughts, in particular on Dallas, Minnesota. You're the one that picked them to go all the way. You're on the train, baby, the hype train.
Yeah, it goes back to everything we've said about Minnesota for 7 weeks now. I don't trust them defensively. I don't think they're elite in the attack as well. And they have to go on the road to Dallas. But Emmanuel Reynoso will be the best player on the field. And when that's the case in an MLS playoff game, you always have a shot. So I think Dallas is set up well. Hedges is healthy. Martin Paz has been good in goal. A little weakness at fullback both ways, but fine, that can happen. And I think they still have enough pieces to get over the top here, as well as game changers off the bench. Hunter Obrion's given them some okay performances the last few weeks. He'll now get pushed to the bench. They've got some depth in central midfield as well. So yeah, I can imagine this is a game where Paul Arriola comes out on fire, right? Like we saw through much of this season, and just ends it before it starts. And I just think this Dallas team, top to bottom, is a better side. And it's not asking you to do things different. Play your game at home, and you will beat Minnesota United.
Can I ask you to give the folks that maybe aren't that familiar with Alan Velasco a quick scouting report? Throw him on the hype train, get people excited about Alan Velasco.
Yeah, he's an elite finisher if you put him through, which Jesus Ferreira is pretty good at with him, but he can also create his own shot. And he's able to step overs. He's got quick touch when he's in between defenders to burst by them. He's able to crash on the far post as well. So he's probably, over the next few years, we'll see, going to be an elite scorer off that wing position, which is pretty dangerous. And he can create for just his teammates and himself. He likes to come inside in transition and basically be that forward that gets played through. So we haven't seen him for 6 or 7 weeks, which is tough and a question mark. But when we started to see him at his peak, he was showing that he could be a future star in MLS.
Huge wild card for the Loons. I mean, look, we know all about Amaria, about Reynoso, about Robin Lod. Mindar Garcia is sort of a recent addition for them. He's only played about 500 minutes, but all obviously after the summer transfer window when they brought him in. He has been in very good expected goal positions. He has not yet scored the goals that the expected goal model would expect of him, but he is like the lone threat in behind to stretch the field for Minnesota. Can they get him in a situation? Can he have a moment of brilliance when he hasn't given them one really yet to make the difference on the road? Dallas want to have the ball. They can control play. Can he get him behind, stretch the game, give Reynoso a good option to play into and maybe create a chance for Amaria as well? That's a wild card to watch for Minnesota. Of course, 2022 Audi MLS Cup playoffs, they start this weekend, Saturday on Unimas, Univision, TUDN, MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app. Again, I will remind you, we have pre- and post-game shows on that day. So check out the MLS YouTube page, Twitch, also MLSsoccer.com, and the MLS app. So you can just watch the game and get the shows all through that. Sunday, yeah.
A special Monday morning podcast, MLS Today. We're going to have Drake Callender and Sebastian Leggett on.
Nice.
So
we just
get stuck in, get you previewed for that Monday night game.
You go. And then on Sunday, of course, you've got your two seeds against the 7 seeds. Those games on ABC and ESPN. And then on Monday, everything's on FS1. Big thanks to Stu Holden for joining us, as well as Diego Fagundez. We'll end with this one, Charlie. I know how you have a little bit of FOMO when it comes to the Monday show sometimes. Like, hey, I had takes. I didn't get to give my takes.
No, we're good.
So
we're
this
good.
is Charlie on Monday's news.
No, I'm good.
Charlie on Monday's news. Coy says, predictions for how Caleb Porter leaving Columbus is going to affect Hell is Real. Will somebody be able to fill his shoes as a villain in the series? What are your thoughts on Caleb Porter's time in Columbus ending? And we can all mourn Caleb as a Hell is Real victim, because he was a very good one with the shushes of the crowd, etc.
Yeah. For me, it's not the coaches that make this rivalry. So it's the players and it's the performances. So I don't think it's going to affect the rivalry whatsoever. What I will say is, yes, they won an MLS Cup with him, but consistency was the problem for the issue with this team, because you have a brand new stadium, beautiful, beautiful stadium, and it's packed, but people want to see this team competing every year because the amount of talent that they have, and you have Lucas Del Rayon as a game changer, Cucho Hernandez, you better be in the playoffs. And so, it's one of those things where you thank him for his championship and really, continuing to push the envelope. But in terms of over the course of time, consistency, it was not there. And then you throw in just, breaking relationships here and there, and the way he kind of shushed out Zardes with his contribution to the club. I think there were a number of things that worked against him, and so you just hope that they go out and they appoint a manager who will get this team to play at their best and get the most out of players and have a more positive kind of aura around them.
All right, there you have it, Charlie. On Monday's news,
because that Monday show's whack.
Well, you know what? We're a Tuesday show next week. Just saying, because there's playoffs on Monday night.
No,
we're
I'm a
going to hold
Thursday
off.
guy.
We'll be there on Tuesday with Doyle and Kaylin to wrap up round one and look ahead to the conference semis. So look ahead to that one.
What? If Charlie's not there, I'm not there either.
Thank you.
Take me off.
Respect.
Yeah.
We're brothers.
We're like
brothers in arms.
We'll see about
Let's
that
roll.
on Tuesday. I think we'll probably see you dropping in. But enjoy the playoffs, everybody.
But mentally,
round one.
I won't be there. Charlie.
Okay, you'll be checked out. Got it.
He is not
solidarity. Solidarity with Charlie. Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, round one of the MLS Cup playoffs. All the coverage, MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app, and our pregame and postgame shows on Saturday. So tune in for those. You can watch in English on MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app. Enjoy the games. We will see you Tuesday, everybody. Adios. Congratulations, you made it through more than an hour of extra time. That means you love the show, and if you love the show, you probably want more episodes. Click right here for more episodes of Extra Time, and here to subscribe to the MLS YouTube channel. Thanks for following along.